Hey guys, welcome back to another educational video. This is the youtube.com/generic tech support channel. If you guys are watching this, you should know that everything we do is for educational value. All the software is purchased or used under legal availability. This channel does not promote or suggest the use of pirated software. All links are located on the Tech Guy 1 wiki page. This channel, again, is for educational purposes only. Like and subscribe for more content. I provide you guys the best practices or best experience and insight into doing things, but I don't know everything. So if you guys know something that I don't, please leave it in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Hey guys, welcome to another Windows XP video. In today's video, we're going to look at Windows XP's full Maza edition. I don't really know much about this other than the fact that this is a fan-provided Windows XP system. Specifically, this system is a build that took place in 2009, and it was generally released to the public in 2022, rather. So as of now, I don't really know much about this other than the fact that it is supposedly a customized version of Windows XP with some Vista GUI added to it. And again, fan-provided from 2009, was finally officially released in 2022. Let's dig into this thing and see what it looks like. So right off the bat, we could see that we do have the customization to tell us what this operating system is. Not much else looks like it's different, so let's continue on the installation, and I will kick off the video again once we get to any additional differences. So it looks like we have some customization now going on, where something's going on in the background to install our configuration files. As we can see, this is Windows XP Pro, so let's continue on this process and see what takes place. Okay, so we just got this screen for our installation process, which clearly is different than what we would have gotten out of a Windows XP Service Pack 3 installation build, so we're going to continue on the process. We do get a countdown timer, which gives us an indication as to roughly how long this is going to take in order for us to do the install. Again, these are virtualized platforms, sandboxed machines. This machine has no network connection of any kind. During the installation process, I go through this completely isolated to see what we get during the installation process. Keep in mind, just as an FYI, all the information as far as links and things like that to these OSs are in the Git repository. Obviously, can't put them on Google or YouTube any longer, so if you need access to them, go back to the profile page, find the Git link, and then look for my wiki inside the Git repository, and you'll find the links to this and all the other video option links that have existed in the past. Okay, so now we've gotten to the point where it looks like this system is going to start doing tweaks and modifications into the actual operating system. So it ran through a series of packages there to do the installation. Let's see what happens next. Alright, so the system just rebooted, and I'm not really sure what's going on yet. We got a welcome screen. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hidden in the background there. There is quite a bit more graphically going on here than there was in the original version of XP, so this is kind of interesting as far as what we got loading here. Not entirely sure what WinFlip is. If somebody knows what that is, if it's something from back in the day, just add it down in the comments. I'm just curious if anybody knows what that is. What is WinFlip? Okay, so now the package installer is clearly installing something, and if we scroll here, we might be able to catch it before it ends the 15 seconds. But it looks like it installs a multitude of tools. So the system just attempted to install something called FFD Show. So specifically what that is it's an old school video codec pack for like DivX and whatnot. I don't think it's necessary for us to have it on this machine, so I just skipped it. So now we're going through the installation configuration, I guess, of securities on the system, which is interesting because that's more than we usually get on these homebrewed machines. So since I'm trying to do the installation as if it would have been out of the box for 2009, I'm just going to click accept because I'm assuming that's what most people would do here when they do the installation process, is just go through these things and accept the changes in configuration. And then obviously once we have all this stuff set, we will go through the process and That's interesting because I didn't actually move the mouse that time to click on that. That just clicked itself. There is no, again, network connection, so it's definitely something coded into the operating system to click that. There's probably some kind of click software in there, which obviously is a little bit of a concern in itself. But once we get through this whole process, we will Nessus scan this thing to see what it looks like. So far, it's very interesting. There's a lot of graphic, a lot of GUI involvement, and a lot of customization in this operating system. So I'm interested to see what the rest of it looks like once it's built. There you guys go. I just zoomed in a little bit more. Hopefully this helps you see it a little better because, again, there's quite a bit here. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a sidebar. We have things going on in the background. There's tools. There's other things running. There's package management. Once you get the video drivers installed on here, it should be easier for us to see it, but right now it is what it is. There's Internet Explorer 8. I don't really want to ask me later. So we're trying to go to websites. There's quite a bit that's going on in this package. This package is very large. So the Windows operating system itself, the installation process, I think is like 620 meg. This particular one is 1.4 gig. So it's more than double the size of the original operating system. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background here. I can tell you right off the bat, I can't stand the fact that it's got a Yahoo taskbar or toolbar built into it. But again, 2009, right? So you know, I can't be that harsh. It was 2009. So again, this is still going through the process. Once they get this thing finished, I'll get the drivers installed, and then I'll launch this video again so we can take a look at this operating system. Again, unless there's something crazy that happens in between then and now. Or now and then. You get what I'm saying. So I'll be able to tell here in a minute if this actually works, because right now it looks like it's frozen at the 56-second mark on the countdown. There's a lot of stuff, again, that goes on in the background, and whoever developed this, unfortunately, I think they just started the shutdown process too fast. They should have put like a timeout or a time wait or something in the command logic to give the back end of the system enough time to finish before it actually launches the shutdown or restart command. Which, again, this is from 2009, and I don't know if there's a later version or if there's different versions or customizations, but I think that's something that probably should have taken place. Just, again, because even on this system where we're running 2 cores and 4 gigs of memory, which is probably more than what your generic or typical Windows XP machine is going to have, it's too slow in the back-end process for this stuff to launch. So we've been sitting here now for probably, or at least I have, for over 56 seconds, and I haven't seen this change. So we probably have to Control-Alt-Delete this thing and reboot the system so that way I can continue on the package installation. So there we go. I just did the Control-Alt-Delete, and as you can see, we are locked, or at least the system shutdown process is locked. So I'm just going to, again, restart this thing, and since I can't get to where I need to get to, that's interesting. I'm not even sure what just took place there. So there's command prompts. I have no idea if that... Let's reboot this thing and see what happens. I can't because it's telling me that there's a reboot pending, but since it's locked, let's try that again. Yeah, it's still host. All right, I'm going to just hard boot the system. We'll get back into it. Okay, guys, so we are in the Maza edition of 2009 Windows XP, and there's a lot going on in here. There is a ton of things on this operating system. First off the bat, I really do like the background and how it looks when you first launch it. I do like the fact that we have a Windows 7 or a Windows Vista, I think it's really more like Windows 7 taskbar associated in Windows XP. We do have a Windows 7 type of menu, and the icons and the way things look, even in a Windows XP machine, actually look great. The operating system itself, there's quite a bit running on this particular OS, so this is not something I would ever say, hey, you should run this if you have a slow machine. Because even at idle, we're at 253 megs of memory, and usually I think Windows XP is around 64 megs of memory at idle. So there's a lot going on as far as Windows XP is concerned in the background. Once again, I don't have the network adapter connected. We can see that down here as well. It's not connected. We have no connection. We have our single administrator account. There is no password out of the box on the actual configuration. And there is, again, a lot of stuff on here going on in the background. Obviously, the VMware tools is me. I just installed that so we could get the full screen. But there is quite a bit of other stuff here. It's Vista Drive and just tons of stuff. So I would say that this probably isn't something that I would call a secure operating system. But it did install ESET antivirus on it during the installation process. So at least the developer was trying at the time that this was developed. So with that said, let's take a look and see what's all installed on this thing. Now, I don't know what a lot of these things are. I do have a README up here. I'm not going to open that up on camera until I know specifically what's in there. We do have I'm assuming that's some kind of a calendar, which might be this thing here, because again, we do have a dock bar on this thing, which actually is kind of cool. The icon for this software, or whatever this is, let's see if we could see it. Yeah, so the icon for it, it kind of looks like a combination of maybe what we would find in like Pigeon from back in the day, or even like the icon from, I'm trying to think of what that thing was called. Maybe it wasn't Trillion. There was something else that was out that was in competition with Mozilla Firefox back in the day, and I just can't remember what it was called. But I know Pigeon was a messaging service, but there was another browser that looks like. If you guys know what I'm talking about, leave a comment down below. I just can't remember what the actual application was called. The funny thing about it, though, is in some of the windows, what we see here actually almost looks like the Thundercat icon from back in the 80s, the TV show. Again, leave a comment down below if you know what the Thundercats are. So as far as our configuration is concerned, again, the menu system is very much like a combination or of a hybrid between Vista and Windows 7. But the OS, I assure you, is Windows XP. Let's see if we could actually open up our My Computer, so that way we could throw the properties and I could show you that this is XP. Or I guess I could just show you in the system info underneath the command line. So there we go. We are on Windows XP Professional, Service Pack 3, Build 2600. And yeah, so that's what we got running here. And obviously we have no real Windows updates, so we don't have any of the Windows Update security on here, but I didn't expect us to do that. And honestly, during the process of our installation here, what I might do is I might run the scan on this thing with our Nessus scanner to see what it shows. And then I might install our Granite XP hardening process on this actual system to see if we could clean it up. And still run it as a usable system at that point with the security in place. Now keep in mind, there's a lot on here. And the fact that it had automatic mouse clicking applications on it and things like that, there's probably other stuff going on in the background of this operating system that maybe at the time was secure, but by 2024 standards, it might not be something you want to run on a daily driver. But that said, I'm still going to run the scan on it. We'll still scan it after we put the Granite XP hardening package on this thing to see what it looks like. Speaking of which, I'll have that video out someday soon here in the future, as well as the information as to where to grab it. I've been working on the Wiki page to get the Granite XP build finalized with all the information so you can just grab it. And actually, I've been working indirectly. I reached out to Chris Titus. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's doing a package right now for Windows 10 and 11, and I sent him some information, just basically letting him know that if he wanted to, he could use the Granite XP build process. I would clean up the XP configuration platform for him, so that way he can inject those registry configurations for the NIST standards for 800-171 standards directly into his system. I'm still having some issues with the cipher, but we could get onto that in another video. Let's continue on with this one here. Okay, guys, so let's jump into the control panel now and let's take a look. Well, that was interesting. Let's go to Add Remove Programs. Do I get any flashy fun things for that? I guess not. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, so we have Adobe installed. We have the Flash Player, which is super important, especially if you want to play Flash games still. I guess the pre-package here would come with the Flash Player, so that way you could play Flash games on this system, which obviously from a security perspective, we want to uninstall that. But generally speaking, if you're going to run Windows XP, you're going to use it as a gaming machine, so that's fine. Then we have the Any Video Converter, which, okay. CCleaner from, it's got the installation date today, but and it doesn't tell me what the version is, but I'm guessing that it's old. Then we have something called Clean Center, which is on the desktop. We'll have to double-click on that and open it up and take a look to see what that is. DirectX 11 beta. Let's see, we have the drive space indicator, which is an annoying pop-up that I keep getting about indicating and letting me know whether or not my drive space is low. Honestly, if I was going to use this, I would uninstall that just because it's more annoying, and I know how to just go in here and take a look to see specifically what we have. I do wish that the pointer wouldn't auto-select whatever it's over. So it seems to be like if I change the mouse cursor or something onto the side of the screen, it automatically changes what I'm focused on. That's kind of annoying too. I don't know if that's part of the package or that's something else that's installed on here that's forcing that to happen. It's probably whatever the customized icon is that's causing that to happen, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. The ESET Smart Security, again, probably antiquated. And honestly, at this point, anybody that's developing viruses for Windows XP, he doesn't have much that he's going on, because quite frankly, why would you hack a Windows XP machine? It doesn't have the SMB capability to communicate with the newer system, so anything that's newer that holds all the data that you would want to access, you couldn't access from the system anyway. And even if you could access their network, because say their network was all compromised 2003 Windows XP systems, they don't have the money to replace the servers. What do you intend to get from them? So there's really no reason to hack a Windows XP machine for anybody that has half a brain and common sense. So the reality is running like a full ESET security system, or even like Norton antivirus, just boat anchors the system performance, and it's not going to get you anywhere, because anybody that would ever hack into these systems that actually did want to steal from you is going to be somebody that you know, and it's not going to be somebody out there that's installing ransomware with the idea that they're going to steal money from you. What are they going to hack into your $35 machine and get $1 million? That's not going to happen. So why waste the time? So let's take a look now. We also have the Internet Download Manager. This was popular back in the day. I don't know, some of you guys are older like me, some of the guys are younger. Back in the day, we used to have the Internet Download Managers, which gave you the ability to pause the downloads. And that was important back in the day, because if you had Windows XP, chances are you were still either just starting to get into the internet on broadband, but the vast majority of us still had dial-up. And if you had dial-up, you wanted the ability to pause your downloads, because sometimes on a 56K modem, if you were downloading an application, it might take 3 days. So a lot of us shared a phone connection with our parents or with friends, or just a phone in general. So you would dial up, you get on the internet, use it for 3 hours, then you disconnect and plug your phone back in so you use your phone on the regular connection. And because of that, you wanted the ability to pause your downloads, so the 3 hours that you downloaded, you didn't have to eat and start over from scratch the next day. So, I mean, it's just something that did exist just for the sake of having the ability to pause downloads. It doesn't really need to exist anymore, and a lot of those companies that provide internet downloaders for you, for your application, they're doing it for nefarious reasons. They provide them so that way they have a way to track specifically what you're downloading. It's not worth having them on your machine. Then we have Java, which I guarantee you this thing right here has that log4j crap in it. The K-Lite Mega Codec Pack. I guess we could watch videos, but I don't know if it's going to provide the same thing as like a VLC player will. And VLC will run on Windows XP, so you'd probably be better off not having that and just downloading the codec pack directly from VLC or using the VLC player. .NET Framework 2.0. We do have Microsoft Office Professional 2003, which I find out interesting. We have Microsoft Visual++ 2008 redistributable, so that means that we were made at least in 2008 for this particular release. We have Firefox version 3. We have PCSX, which I'll have to take a look to see what that is. I wonder if that's the PlayStation codec pack or configuration pack to play like automated games. I did confirm that is the original PlayStation configuration tool to play PlayStation games. Again, there's better ways to do that these days. You could just use Ubuntu. Ubuntu has a better PlayStation package thing that you could run emulated games or play games on through your disk drive directly on the thing. You'd be better off doing that than using this machine for that. Again, 2009, this was pretty cool, but by today's standards, it's really not necessary. So we have Power Archiver. We have Power ISO. We have some kind of customized calendar configuration. We have Real Player, which is interesting because I don't think I've seen Real Player in probably 10, 15 years on a computer. We have True Transparency, which that's the wrapper that we have here that looks like Vista. Again, there's some customization in here which kind of looks semi-Vista and semi-Windows 7, but that's just because Vista and 7 are very similar. But yeah, this is the Vista wrapper. So that's what that is. That turns on the ability to wrap this thing to make it look like that. And we have, we have Yahoo Toolbar and Messenger. We have WinRAR, which is, typical. We have the VMware tools that I installed, and we have the visual tooltip, which is, again, visualizations as to what we see here, as well as the pointer. We have Ultra ISO Premium, which I find interesting. So keep in mind, back in the day when we had Windows XP, now with your later versions of Windows, if you had an ISO file, you could just mount that ISO file as an external disk, and you could see it in your My Computer. But back when XP took place, there were applications like Alcohol 120%. Alcohol 120% gave you the ability to mount that ISO file so you could actually read it. That wasn't built into XP. It didn't give you the ability out of XP just to directly mount an ISO file. So that's something to keep in mind, is that a lot of those applications that exist on these older platforms are designed to work around issues with the Windows XP platform that didn't provide you the ease of access into applications and configurations that the later platforms do. And then, of course, the Uber icon. Again, that's just the icon package as to what we see here. It's visualization. So now that we have that, we've taken a look. Let's see if there's any updates on here. I really don't think that there's anything on here. At least I don't see anything. So it's not. I don't see anything. If we go to Add Remove Windows Components, let's take a look to see if there's anything funky in here. Again, I'm really not a huge fan of this UI just because it keeps changing what I'm focused on to the background. So we have MSN Explorer, which is kind of funny, but Microsoft Windows Messenger. I mean, it's really just stuff that would have been out of the box configuration junk from back in the day. There's really nothing else in here. All right, so now that we've taken a look at our Add Remove programs, we've taken a look at our Add Remove Windows components, let's see if there's any firewall rules added to this thing that would be outside of the norm. Okay, so since we're technically looking at Vista here, let's go into our Security Center. Let's take a look. There's our firewall. Yep, so firewall service is disabled. That's pretty common for Windows XP, so it's nothing outside of the norm. Again, the system does take some effect, some things into consideration with the ESET configuration. And it's possible once we take a look at the ESET configuration, ESET may have its firewall turned on, but Windows Firewall is turned off. Again, these were common things back in the day. When you were setting up a Windows XP machine, generally speaking, you would set up your Windows XP machine with a third-party firewall. And a lot of us ran actual third-party application-based firewalls on our Windows XP machine because it gave you more options to configure it. The firewall configuration as we know it today didn't really take place until Windows 7. But that said, keep in mind that when these operating systems were new, like Windows XP, the vast majority of us, again, were on dial-up. And on a dial-up connection, you didn't stay continuously connected to the internet. You were only connected to the internet for a short amount of time to do what you needed to do, and then you would disconnect. And then once the broadband actually became a thing where we were connected all the time, at that point, there really was no real massive nasty viruses. I think the WannaCry virus was really the turning point between when we started to see real nefarious and criminal activities on the internet versus beforehand it was all petty crime. It was basically like people would steal like MP3 files from like Napster. That was considered the high crime of the time on the internet. But there wasn't like what it is today. I mean, you could watch these movies like Hackers where they're dialing up into places to shut down systems, and I'm certain, I know firsthand that a lot of that stuff did take place. But it was more of an annoyance, They would shut your server on, you turn it back on, you change the phone number, and then you didn't have the problem anymore. Or you configure the firewall that you block it. It wasn't the end of the world. Whereas today, you get ransomware, and it'll put a business out of business for a week until either it can be recovered from backups, or God forbid these people try to pay the ransom, and then they end up with credit card theft on top of the other theft that took place. So I mean, it's gotten far worse, and I think really COVID was probably our turning point as far as where it just escalated tenfold because, quite frankly, the country shut down and they terminated internal IT people that were controlling these systems and created a skeleton crew of people that were underqualified and understaffed to actually handle the issues, which caused this uptick in criminal activity on the internet. Now, with that said, let's take a look next to see if Windows Updates is running. And God, I hate the fact that this thing just dumps. Maybe if I close that window, maybe that'll help. So we don't have any settings, but we also don't appear to have it disabled because we could get into the config. So, I mean, that's fine because obviously we don't have a way to run Windows updates for Windows XP any longer, so it doesn't really make any difference. But it is interesting that we do have some of the stuff still turned on. So let's take a look at some of the other configurations on here as far as our applications are concerned. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to jump into Clean Center and see what this actually is. We don't have to worry about that because, quite frankly, that's not going to happen. I'm not connecting this machine to the internet. So, but based off of what we see here, it does look like this is a lot like just CCleaner. And quite frankly, the fact that I've never heard of this actual application, and I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing it, tells me that chances are this company didn't last long because of CCleaner. So let's get out of this configuration and let's check on something else on this desktop and see what else is on here. Let's take a look at CCleaner itself because I think that will allow us to like kind of carbon date this to figure out specifically when this package was built. So what we could see at the top here is we have version 2.19.900. Let's take a look at that version and see what version year that's from. So it looks like 2.19.900 is from May of 2009. So that tells us that this operating system, this package itself, was built at least in May of 2009. And that kind of lines up, right? Because this is the 2009 edition, so it would make sense that it would be like mid-May that this actual application would have been developed and released as a homebrew configuration. Do you find it interesting that we have Foxit Reader installed? Only because we do have Adobe Flash installed. So at that point, I would just install Adobe Reader 2, but hey, that's just preference. Network Places, Windows Live Messenger. That's funny, just because I don't even know that it. So I'm pretty sure Windows Live Messenger turned into Skype, which then eventually turned into Microsoft Teams. But that's where this starts from. USB safely remove. If you don't know what that is, it's back in the day when you used to pull a USB drive. Windows wasn't smart enough to remove it first, so it would throw an error for like delay write failure. Or you could even corrupt the drive. Those are things you don't really worry about anymore, but it is something that existed on that. If you run Linux today, you know what I'm talking about, having to unmount the drive before you pull it. Some of you guys probably just pull it out anyway, but if you unmount it, it's usually a better idea. So then we have the FLV player. This was also something that was popular back in the day, and what this basically is it's a Flash player that gives you the ability to watch Flash movies on your system. This was really before like these third-party applications like HTML5 really didn't exist, obviously, right? So to play Flash movies and you wanted to download Flash movies to play them directly, you would use this. They didn't run. Usually they were. I can't remember the format. I think it honestly was FLV was the format. Again, throw it in the comments if you remember the format. But I think it was FLV. Pretty sure Winamp used to play those videos too off of a website that I kind of remember, which was called Shoutcast. Again, don't know if it exists anymore. If somebody wants to let me know, if somebody down there in the comments uses Shoutcast, let me know. So that kind of covers basically what we have on the desktop. I'm pretty sure everybody else in here knows specifically what the heck like Internet Explorer is and Firefox is. There's really no reason to go through that, or for Ultra ISO. They know that an ISO file is. I mean, if you're watching this, you know what an ISO file is. So let's take a look on this side. So we have fancy icons for things. We have the dock settings, music, control panel, WinRAR, which is was real popular before 7-zip existed. Windows, we have documents, the MSN Messenger, we have Yahoo Messenger, we have videos, we have a green icon for Internet Explorer. And yeah, I did say Exploder, that wasn't misspoken. Media Player Classic, Firefox with the fancy blue icon, My Network Places, and then the My Computer. So there's really not anything else on the desktop. Let's see if there's anything in the programs listing. So it looks like we have pretty much a duplicate of what we had on the actual desktop itself. Is there anything in the startup? Yeah, there's quite a bit in the startup. So if you run that scan and you kill all the stuff in the startup, it would just delete that garbage out of there. There's the Real Player, Power ISO, Power Archiver, there's PlayStation, there's a codec pack, Firefox, Office, Internet Download Manager, there's games, but are the pre-built in Windows XP games. Foxit. There's the ESET. Let's launch ESET and see what this looks like. So right off the bat, we could tell we have definitions from 2008, specifically 1024-2008. So the definitions are old. But let's take a look at the firewall and see what that looks like. So there we go. We do have a firewall. So that's not bad. So I mean, keep in mind that we've reviewed a bunch of Windows systems that were homebrew configuration systems that were designed specifically for a purpose, a lot of which I can't figure out what the purpose is, but they were designed presumably for a purpose. This one is not necessarily designed to be secure, but they did take a step in adding the ability for security, which is the antivirus. And again, it's from 2009, so having definitions from 1024, 2008, and then the release of probably May or June of 2009 based off of the package that we have installed in here, I would say that, at most we're talking 9 months back as far as older definitions on the release date, which is not too bad, especially at the time. You probably could update it in order to update the package to get the later versions of the definitions. I'm not going to try to do that, but you could do that on these particular systems. And the fact that we also have an antivirus, anti-spyware configuration on here. And the updates aren't set to disabled. The configuration is set to at least attempt some level of security on the operating system out of the box. All right, so let's close out of this thing. And let's go back down into our start menu here and take a look, see what else we got in here. This is that thing that I was talking about, the drive space indicator. This tells you whether or not you're out of drive space. It's really just annoying because every time you reboot, it pops up to tell you what drive space is, which, if you're using these systems back in the day, you had like a 20 gig hard drive, you knew how much drive space you had or how much you didn't have. So there's DirectX, there's the Clean Center application, there's CCleaner, there's a cab pack, any video converter, just basic accessories, and 7-zip is installed on this system. So that's pretty much the package. So now let's throw this thing on the network and see specifically what Nessus shows when we scan this operating system. And if you haven't caught it yet, I did upload a video recently which goes over the legacy configuration on not having Windows passwords. So before we do our Nessus scan on this actual system, what we're going to do is we're actually going to computer management and wow. All right, so we actually have scripting that's added to the system under right-click, which is interesting. I had no idea. So let's actually set a password on the system though, so that way we could scan this thing. I do have two device managers, which makes me wonder if one is command and one's actually in the actual system. Is there a difference? Yeah, see, that's a concern. So we have corruption in the operating system as well, or lack of access rights, which is a concern. But like I said, let's get a configuration on this thing as far as a password's concerned, and then let's scan it with the Nessus scanner and see what it shows. So I figured I would walk you through the menu system, because once I got in there to actually take a look under properties, there's quite a bit more in here, which is customization or configuration. And I actually renamed the thing to Test Maza so that way we could run the scan on it. But you'll notice that we do have French configuration in here, which is interesting. System restore is turned off by default, which honestly on Windows XP that's the way it should be. We don't have automatic updates set, we know that already, but we also have things turned off, like for instance remote access and remote desktop are not enabled by default on this Windows XP machine, so that's all good things. That's typically out of the box. Windows XP will have remote assist at least turned on, but it's turned off on this one. So they did take extra steps and precautions into configuring this thing so that way it's more secure than it is out of the box. Okay guys, so interestingly enough, I can't ping that system, and I'm assuming it's because of our ESET configuration with our firewall. We probably have ESET set to not allow ICMP, but that doesn't necessarily mean we can't UNC path or access it in other ways. So what I intend to do is just run the Nessus scanner against it first with the ESET firewall turned on and running. And then if it fails, I will turn the ESET scanner off as far as the firewall configuration on that thing, and I'll scan it again. And then we'll see if we get any results that way. And if we don't get any additional results, then we'll take it from there and maybe throw the Granite XP package on that system to see if we could secure it. Something that I will point out is that if we look at our original vanilla system configuration for Windows XP, there we go, XP baseline. This is what we should see out of the box for a Windows XP system on our configuration, keeping in mind that there's 4 criticals, 2 highs, 1 medium, 1 low, and 27 infos. Our Granite XP build, on the other hand, our package should just be 11 infos. So let's take a look at our Maza XP and run a scan on this system and see what we come back with. Okay, so change of plans. How to kick off the scanner again and go into the original configuration of the system and disable the ESET firewall in order to run the scan. Now, the interesting thing about the ESET firewall versus the firewalls that we have found, like our base Windows firewall or our advanced firewall in our later operating systems, is that the ESET firewall actually flagged the Nessus scan as a compromising scan into the system. So it attempted to authenticate. The authentication piece was blocked by the ESET communicator, and then the ESET scanner itself decided to sever the connection and block the port configuration from our Nessus scanner on our Windows XP system. So I would actually call that system fairly well secure out of the box, just based off the base configuration. Now, with that said, let's see what the operating system itself looks like now that we're running our scan. Okay, guys, so our Nessus scanner has finished. Let's take a look at that. So before we do that, let's jump into our actual vanilla system here and take a look specifically at our configuration, our Windows XP baseline. I should probably put this in the vanilla systems, but anyway, it's a legacy computer. At any rate, Windows XP baseline, we got 4 critical, 2 high, 1 medium, 1 low, and 27 infos. Let's do a comparison now and see what it looks like on our Maza XP machine. Okay, so on our Maza system, we have 4 criticals, 2 high, 1 medium, and 25 info. So that's in comparison to our configuration on our vanilla system, our Windows XP baseline, which, again, on that one was 4 critical, 2 high, 1 medium, 1 low. So we don't have the low. And then we would have 27 infos, but we have 25 on here. So this is a little more secure than your vanilla version of Windows XP. Now, with that said, let's apply our Granite XP configuration to our Maza system, and then let's run another scan with it with our Nessus scanner. And let's see if at that point this number reduces back closer to our Granite XP configuration, which is 11 infos. Or let's see if it's even better. I doubt it, but let's see. Okay, so we're back on our Maza XP system here, and let's take a look. We're going to have to drill down into our beta configuration for our Granite XP system. So specifically what we're going to do is we're going to explore. And in here, we're going to have our Granite XP tweaks folder. So we're going to explore. We have a registry modification, so let's merge this first. Do yes, great. Then we should reboot first, but we're not going to do that yet, so we'll just merge the second one. We'll say yes, great. And now at this point, we have to reboot the system before we can kick off our updates for this particular OS. Okay, so now we're back at our logon screen, and as you can see, we have the beta package for Granite XP, so we've applied our registry tweaks. So there we go, we log back in. We're going to explore again. I'm not even sure what the heck that was, but let's explore that. And let's run our updates. You know what? Let's pause that for a second. Let's do yes. Let's actually select our updates first. Okay. So as you guys can see, it's going to run the WSUS offline updates first. That's embedded in the Granite XP package to allow you to run those updates first. And then once that completes, we'll go through the rest of this process to get the updates installed on this machine so we can then scan it with our Nessus scanner to see if that makes any difference at all in our configuration. Now, the reason why the Granite XP package hasn't released is pretty simple. The installation package is enormous. The installation package for a Windows XP machine typically is about 623 megs, and we could easily just throw the 623 meg thing on an ISO file and then put it on a CD and you could boot off of it. But most Windows XP machines aren't going to have a DVD or a Blu-ray player on them. So I don't really have a way to rip a 4.5 gig file as an ISO file for an installation process to build this as a customized installable ISO file. So as a result, the only way to really do this is to create us an ISO installation package versus the ISO with the actual install completed. So that way you can install the Windows operating system first, and then you can run through all the installation process in order to harden the actual OS. So I have a video already on how to do all this that I will release once this, once I get an idea as to where I could put it. I think the real deterrent right now is I just don't know where to put the file in order for people to grab it. Again, because there's nothing in it that's not, allowed or nefarious, right? We have updates which are available on the Microsoft catalog, and then we have the script configuration, which are group policy settings that you would have if you had a domain controller. So there's nothing like in this that would be something that we got to put it somewhere where you can't find it, or it's hidden, or password protected, whatever, because it's not. It's all publicly available on Microsoft's website anyway. So it's not really the end of the world. So with that said, I just need to know where to put it, and then at that point I can release the package. So while this thing continues on in the background, I'll let it do its thing, and then we'll jump back into the video after the Nessus scanner runs to see what the results look like. Alright guys, just a quick update. As you can see, we're still going with the updates. It's been probably about 2 hours or so from the last time I started the capture. We're still rolling. We are at update number 30 for our .NET Framework packages. We got 2 more security updates after .NET 37 update. So once we get the last couple of these updates updated, the system's going to reboot itself again. Once it comes back up, got 2 more registry fixes we'll have to run. Reboot it one more time, and then when it comes back up again, then we can run the scan on it against Nessus to see specifically what it looks like. Okay guys, so our Granite XP package is now installed on our Maza XP build, our homebrew here. So let's take a look and make sure that we have all our updates applied. So let's go into our control panel. Let's go to add remove programs. Let's go to show updates. There should be quite a bit of them in here at this point. Yeah, as you can see, there's tons. So that's our Granite XP builds. That's all the updates applied. We have all our policy configuration for our NIST 800.171 compliance package from Windows 10 hybrid installed on this system. We could check that too if we go to run and regedit. HQ local machines, software, Microsoft, using T current version. So I get it, reg values. So there we go. So that's going to be all of our policy configuration as far as our group policy adapted for Windows XP and installed on our Windows XP system. Those scripts that I ran through the Granite XP package, they install this stuff, and they also add SDB file for the database configuration file for group policy, and the INI files for the old school secedit hybrid integration. So basically, it integrates the XP operating system with the Windows 10 group policy configuration for our NIST build. So let's take a look now. Let's run a scan against this thing with our Nessus scanner and see specifically what comes back. I still have our ESET software firewall disabled, so we should be able to get a better view as to what this package looks like after we have our Granite XP configuration applied to it. Okay guys, so at this point we have our 10-hole scan completed. This is to showcase our Granite XP security package that we have installed on the Maza 2009 edition of Windows XP. It's been really hard for me throughout this whole video to say Maza 2009 because all I want to say is Mazda, like the car company. And unfortunately, that's the breaks, I guess, for me, being a motorhead outside of the IT world. Now, with that said, let's take a look, see specifically what we got. So our Granite XP build, as we can see, we had 11 infos. Our original Maza configuration, without the Granite XP build, we had 4 critical, 2 high, 1 medium, and 25 infos. If we drop back and we take a look at the Granite XP package, you'll see that we still have just the 11 infos, which is kind of the proof of concept that shows us that we can secure other homegrown systems even with our Granite XP security build. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is a good day-to-day driver type of Windows XP system? I say day-to-day driver, I mean something that you would use for gaming as a base platform. It does have a lot of neat stuff and interesting software installed on it. You know, the fact that it does come with an antivirus and it comes with some security as far as a firewall is concerned, it's all good stuff. And obviously, at this point, it's, you know, from 2009, it's quite a bit, you know, we're talking 15 years of age at this point between then and now. So, you know, we're talking quite a bit of time that has passed. But with all the security updates from the Granite package, it really does secure the operating system. Let me know if there's anything else you guys want to see. Do you want me to revert to some of the old previous builds that we do? Like maybe we should take a look at the latest version of the Integral Edition and do our Granite XP build on top of that and see if we could actually secure that operating system with our Granite security package. Let me know down in the comments. And thanks again, as always, for watching the video, guys. Take it easy.